Okay, so I'm delighted to both say this and welcome you this way. This is my bookend for Awaken the Witches. It's Eva, the bookend. And I delight in saying that because at the end of your soul gathering, you called me a bookend, and I loved it.
You weren't insulted.
I wasn't insulted at all. I thought it was brilliant. And because we started Awaken the Witches a year ago, when I was launching Awaken, the play, and you were the first to speak on it. And then I spoke with some wonderful people who love the witch cause as much as I do. And then I felt like closing it for the season and asked you to speak again, because we have so many, as you know, the witch dive gets deeper and deeper and deeper the more that you're on the wheel, the more that you're on the journey. And I just feel that so much has happened, and I just wanted to chat to you about it. And we are in a big, powerful portal of rising up. And that's why I feel like there's a lot of dark forces coming at people in all directions. So for that reason, that knowledge, that channeling, I spoke to you about wanting to start a Witches Wheel up together. Which is a new thing as we close one chapter and open another one. And I felt very passionately that there was a karmic witches wheel that not many people spoke upon. And the karmic witches wheel is very much to do with, I believe, all things relate back to the occult. When you look deep enough into anything that's going on, you'll get to the root of an occult or a cult or a spiritual twisting of the pure knowledge, which is to me dark magic in its essence, reverting it and twisting it. And I do know that the powerful portals that a lot of healers and witches and light workers and truthers work on and use the equinoxes and the Witches Wheel of the Year are also used in a very dropped consciousness. So I wanted to really reclaim those portal dates back, and speak about these things, which we speak about on the new Witches Wheel that we've launched together. But importantly, I wanted to share space with you because you are the witch leader to me. You've led me around the wheel twice while I'm on my second journey. So now we're entering the third journey together. And so, an epic amount of the Witches Wheel, but also because it's a reclamation. And while I'm very outspoken about the dark agenda and the distorted magic and everything, that's really my passion. It isn't to lose the light and the ancient wisdom is what you carry very strongly in your frequency. So with that big old introduction, welcome, Eimear.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It's beautiful. I love these moments in time where we arrive here and reflect on when we last talked as part of this particular series, because we speak almost every day anyway.
Yeah.
And also, as you were speaking, how much our work has intertwined. It is like the DNA double helix.
Yeah, it is.
How much it's intertwined, and that the wheel and us as cogs in the wheel, perhaps the wheel just keeps on turning and spiraling and expanding and deepening. So yeah, thank you for inviting me here to be your bookend and holding up all these books of great wisdom and these ancient texts that we're here to remember and live into. Yeah, and to be the light and blind people with our light, even with everything that's going on, in the kindest of ways, blinding people.
And one of those books on that bookend I just saw was your own, because you're bringing a witchy book forward, right?
Yes. With your utmost support.
Yeah, actually, I just sent an email to the group. So I'm starting Channel Your Soul Story. Not sure when this is airing, but Wednesday, the 13th of September, which I felt was a very powerful portal, and I didn't really know why, of activation. And there's been some rumbles about different things that might go on. So let's just watch this space to see what happens. in the outside world. Whatever happens, I'm ready for it. Let me just say that I'm ready. I see what you're doing, and none of us are going to fall for it. But yes, I sent an email out to say, right, make space, commit, and give what you can to help nurture, because I feel like these stories are so important. And I know this will speak to you because of the times that the temple, the wisdom in the body was burnt down, the libraries were burnt down, the nuns and the priests and the priestesses who had the knowledge and that was trying to hide it, and the scrolls and the scripts were running away and trying to get their message, passing it on to the next generation. And for me, I feel that we're in that time now that we're going, here you go. Everybody, we're just trying to awaken you to the soul wisdom, the knowledge. Here you go, quick. It's important that we take this baton up now, write our soul stories, get the knowledge out there, even if it's just speaking it is important, sharing it in whatever way you do, knowing that your soul story is vital. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What commitment are you going to give to your amazing story?
Well, it is exactly what I need to be on your 8-week journey, to commit and create the space to write this feckin' book that needs to be birthed. And I know, people that follow me or will know I've spoken about this many times over many years. And I feel there's so much that I've already shared and put out there. And there's so much that I feel it's like my sacred duty now to make the effort to create the space to fully commit to this place of writing and placing these sacred words in one place in a book, which may be the first of other books, I feel, and offer that out to people in that format. As you say, there's many different ways of sharing and speaking in our creative arts. So yeah, you've heard it here, everyone, live on air, that I commit to writing this. And I know it's I feel that joy and that emotion, and with putting that commitment, placing that here in our circle. Because I know that this is a story, and stories that will help activate and inspire others to take that next step, to make the changes, or just to feel heard and witnessed.
I do. I was on a spiritual acting class last night, and they said the duty of theatre or cinematic work is to raise the collective consciousness. And I was sitting in class going, yes it is. And we've so lost that reach, like, don't get me wrong, I'm aware of the drop paradigm in the arts, and I'm going to be speaking about that this time on the Witches Wheel, because it's very important to me as a theatre maker and an actress and a writer. Like, I have gone through a cycle myself of going, do I want to do any of this anymore? And like, what's the most integrity? But I know that filmmakers and artists and theatre makers can be the biggest change makers. I've worked from the sort of underbelly up, the people that are trying to get their message out, and it isn't that easy. So, and I know that art can really make a change. I've talked about this for years. So it's exciting to see the change. I will say I went to see Sound of Freedom this week and cried a lot, and felt that this was the rumbling. I mean, I also want to remind people that it was filmed 5 years ago. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it's not really addressing the bigger issue. And, and there's a sort of turning around in the movement that's like, oh, it's not doing this, and it blah, 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 and it was bought by Disney, and I will say it was dropped by Disney. And so, I would just say be careful about everything out there and just support what you can, because I remember tracking this movie and it kept getting shut down. And I know for me, it's taken 5 years to get a reading of my play up. It's not easy. the art world isn't easy, unless you've got like those big top-down funders, and that's what we don't want anymore. That isn't 5D Earth. So Angel Studios is the new thing of going, right, you support something and we'll get it out there. And this is the way we want to go, for sure. So I would say support it, make up your own mind. And if it spreads awareness in a few more people's minds, I think it's doing its job for sure. I went on a tangent there, but it felt really important. And that's why I was so excited about bringing spiritual stories forward and soul awakenings at this time, because I got a big spiritual go. You're talking about changing the paradigm. So how can you help support that? And it's like, well, we're a community, and it's not just my theatre that I want to get out there. Even though my theatre's coming for you, for sure. I've made that commitment too. I'll be writing this afternoon. I was like, yeah, you got to follow your own practice. But yeah, I kind of wanted to touch in on your soul story, because you have such an interesting soul.
Thank you. You're the first to say so. So do you.
My soul's wicked. No, I mean wicked in the old sense, but I used to use that word. Amazing, not wicked. Otherwise, my soul's, yeah, pretty epic. But I think that's how we've interweaved a lot. I thought we've met at the round table, and we've met at different places and crossed over with our soul story. And I'm not going to say too much. I just want to know if you want to speak into anything about soul story.
Well, just as you were saying that, meeting at the round table, and by that it's like the ancient multidimensional round table. It's like each of us, when we connect, we ignite each other. It's like that when we meet our soul friends and soul tribe. And I feel like that's like that warrior energy that we need to support each other and to keep going. So I feel there's been so many, and I know there's been so many lifetimes that I speak for myself, I've been killed, I've been sucked dry of my soul essence, I've been harvested, I've been tortured, silenced, I've been in hiding, I know, for many, many lifetimes. So this importance of understanding and remembering what our soul story is, what the journey of our soul is through the work and the support from you, is so vital to know. Like some of my clients will say to me, I didn't want to share what I was visualizing or feeling because I think I'm going mad. And I'm like, no, I get it. I've had these experiences too. I've had so many of these. So you're not going mad. You're remembering to help heal this and to shine the light on it and step forward with what you're meant to be bringing through in this lifetime. So it's like that warrior connection of remembering and supporting each other in our paths, to go, you're not crazy, this isn't daft, this isn't ridiculous to change your path into that direction, because this is where your soul is guiding you to go. Soul knows best.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
like
I
a
love
fish, like a snake, like a dolphin. Yeah.
I just thought you were channeling a bit of light language there.
Oh wow, maybe. Well, I probably was. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up about not being crazy, because I think the very first time I connected with you right at the start of the witch journey was because you put it out there about healing the witch wound, and you openly shared about your own sort of witch awakening. And I was writing a play about mine, and I didn't feel so alone. I felt supported, and it was gorgeous to have to go to the witches event with you recently and have a lot of people come up to you and say how much you've supported their witch awakening. Yeah. And I was like, yay, like take it in, because you're such a humble person. Was like, you deserve this, you've done a lot of work in the forum, and I have a lot of gratitude for that. But I think the other thing that you brought in just then that's really valuable is about, because I was speaking to a lot, I've just done a recording a little while about about spiritual crisis. And I realized that spiritual persecution and spiritual crisis are the leading themes of my work and what I bring forward, which was new to me, because I was really trying to uncover. You do this as a writer in your work when you get to a stage where you go, what is this really about? And it takes a while to really get to the depth of it, and then you realize it. And for me, you know, I started with witch persecution and who the medium witches really were, and that took me a long time to get to that. I was on the persecution, but then it got to be, why were they persecuted? Oh, because they had the witch gifts. Oh, because they were speaking to spirit directly. And that's the gnosis that came out for me. And then my second one is very much about transhumanism and AI, because it harvests the soul, and soul's consciousness is so important to me. And to be honest, as I go down that journey, it will probably go even deeper. And I did the same with my business, and I was like, oh, spiritual persecution, spiritual crisis is so important, and that trauma of the past, because if nobody speaks out about it, and it's, you know, a lot of people speak to me a lot in our one-to-one sessions, and I kind of say gently, me too, and try and share my own, because I know that they won't hear it as much as I hear it off a lot of people. But there needs to be that support for, you're not crazy, and actually that's the agenda playing out there, like silence your gifts. We'll work with MK often, where they were working with mediums and tarot readers and astrologers and stuff, and just look up that paradigm for yourself. But we won't acknowledge it, and we'll put laws in place, or we'll silence it or shut it down as crazy. And I think the thing is, what your soul knows is so valuable, and you have the right to it. You have the absolute right to reclaim your soul's knowledge. And I would teach more on this, but looking at what Akashic readings are, and Akashic is a hall of records, of soul records. And it was David Icke that once pointed out, like, it sounds like a computer system, no? A computer system where they hold your soul records. And then there's the emerald halls of Amenti and the emerald tablets, which if you look into, that's kind of the underworld, Thoth, and, you know. So then there's the soul records, the soul story records that I talk about. And they are beyond the underworld and beyond the Akash, and straight into your oversoul. And it's your divine birthright to have these at birth, I feel. But if you can't have them in at birth, because maybe we're not that stage of earth until that consciousness is dropped, we deserve it now. So no, it's not crazy, and it's crazy not to reclaim what's rightfully your birthright. I went off on a little Cheryl.
Yes. And this is the demonstration of us at the round table.
Yes.
And my palms feel sweaty actually speaking this. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've had like tingles around here on my head as you were speaking, and then that's why I had to speak, because it was like they were going zzz. Yeah,
and I want to acknowledge and thank you for mirroring back what people shared with me at the Witches Revival event, because that's really important, to understand our impact in this world when we're working away. You know, I'm working away behind this square screen. You can see this much of me. You can't see my shorts, and you know, and then we step out and into the real world, really connecting with people, spiritual people and seekers and way-showers and leaders. And that's mirrored back, that love, that gratitude, that impact of what we must share, and how that's rippling out. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And there was something else. Yeah, you shared.
Say, you want to share a little bit about what you shared at the. So we both did the Witches Revival event with a beautiful Silver Spoon Collective, who've done an amazing event, and I've been following them for a while. I know you went to the event. They are speaking, they're doing some wonderful witch work. And I know you were invited, and you were like, there can't be a witchy event without Cheryl. And I was like, yeah, I need to be there. I didn't know why, but I really felt the call. And I kind of know now. but we both shared quite a bit of our witch journey, didn't we? And I just wondered if you wanted to share about that, because it was quite an awakening, an eye-opening, or
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and this is part of that commitment that you'll know, writing a trilogy of plays, of that commitment when we actually sit down and start to gather up, divinely harvest our ideas and thoughts and actually put them down on paper together in one document. Then the bridges and the links and the connections were becoming more apparent. And what seems so obvious now, I hadn't realized at the time, like different connections between messages from my father, messages from the witches, and where I am in my life now. But sharing at the Witches Revival event, it was so beautiful. It was in Lancaster, honouring the Pendle witches on the anniversary of their hanging. It was incredibly healing and moving. And the beauty of it was we were almost bookends again, because my talk was first in the auditorium, and then you were next after me. And it's like, this is a divine order where whatever I'm sharing is, I don't know, energetically having an impact with what you shared as well. And mine was about the catalytic cry of the witches. And the cry felt important because it is this rally cry for now, for where we are. And it's that emotional, tormented cry of what's happened to us, to our people in the past for eons. And there's been times where that cry has died out, and I've, lifetimes where I've cried and screamed so much that I had no cry left in me. There was no point crying anymore. So this was like the rally of, here we are again. Our voices are being heard in these spaces. And it was my whole story of my witch awakening, but it was many, many spirals. Because where do you start on these journeys and these lives that we've lived for so long? But it started with my activation, my witch activation in the Edinburgh dungeons, and then went from there. But then it went back to times of leaving corporate when I lived and worked in the mainstream 3D earth world, and then forward to where we are now. And then it spiraled back even further to the last words of my father being resurrection, which means to rise up into an ascended state of being, or to rise up and rebirth anew. And then the message of the witches in 2020, witches rise up. Like, whoa, it's taken 29 years for this message to really land within me. Rise up, rise up. This 3D earth is poisoning me. Rise up out of this earth, not leave it and everyone behind, but to help and support our ascension, descension, ascension into more crystalline ways of being, more joyful, more alive, more awakened ways of being. Ooh. And that's so much more fun.
Yeah.
Than being under someone else's control in the Milton Keynes postcode. No offense to anyone in Milton Keynes. My sister lives in that.
I have family in Milton Keynes.
Yeah. My sister's there. So
yeah. just a bit of MK, that's all.
Just the lettering. So it felt like such a beautiful reclamation that still, I feel I'm still integrating that experience and that brotherhood and that sisterhood that we experienced as, after my talk. And I was off the hook and could witness your talk.
I know, and I had that moment where you were like, oh yeah, Dan, and I was like, okay, just going up. And I will say it was like, intense. I mean, I take my hat off. I was a bit ambitious. I was like, I'm going to do a performance. I'm going to do some poetry. I'm going to do my talk, which I didn't know whether I was ready to talk about, because my talk involved my dad, who, you know, it's a recent loss. My dad passed away in February, but it's so part of my soul's journey and my understanding of of sickness, let's say, and sickness as a healer and a reclamation of what was taken from witches healers. I've talked about this a lot, but I've actually gone a lot deeper. I know you have as well, and we'll talk more about this on the Witches Wheel for sure. The cult of the medics and all things like that. But yeah, I didn't know whether I'd be ready, and then I wanted to bring in healing and a shamanic journey, and did all of that. I was like, whew. And then yeah, it was quite a powerful activation for the audience, because they were seeing things and hearing things and getting messages. And then one of them saw my dad there sitting in the audience, which was a pretty special moment for me. And also to have all those people with those mediumship skills, which is what the witches were killed for. And I want to say that I talk in a lot, and I speak to you about it, and I speak a lot about it, about multi-dimensional mediumship, because this is what we have. We're multi-dimensional beings. We can't be going to a 5D earth if we're not multi-dimensional. And multi-dimensional mediumship means you're working with the spirit of the land, or the spirit of loved ones, or divine spirit, or you're working with the spirit in yourself, which is what I do in the spirit of souls. You know, it doesn't have to look like one way. I think that's why I call it multi-dimensional mediumship, because mediums are very much about speaking to loved ones that have passed on, which is part of what I do, but it's not limited to what I do, because actually sometimes it's better to speak to your own soul and your soul's wisdom, or sometimes it's you're communing with the earth. It's however you work, or that you're communing with you have a really strong spirit team, or you know, or real connection with source, whatever that means. So yeah, I think that is the witch reclamation for me, the multi-dimensional mediumship. And it was great to have that feedback. And there were people in the audience going, but didn't you just switch music on? I was like, no, but I heard someone singing with you when you were drumming. Yeah, that spirit, that's what happens. We are, you know, you've come to a witch talk, expect to be witchified, you know. So yeah, it was a really great event, and I think a start of more things to come, you know, with events and theatre, and it's certainly the way I'm wanting to take my work. What happened over there, Eimear?
It's ridiculous. My microphone, ironically, isn't switched on, but you can hear me okay.
Hey, fine, yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't switched on and fully up, so that's what I'm trying to tinker with. But yeah, ironic. We talk of voice and sharing and microphone malfunction.
No, we can hear you all right, so it's fine. Yeah, you've got.
It was on, but yeah, so I was listening.
Yeah, it's all right. I thought, what? Someone appeared over there, because you never know, do you? And yeah, I had to get up to close the window because there was like drilling, and I was like, "You're drowning me out." I was like, "This, you couldn't make this stuff up."
Not this time. Not this time.
Yeah.
And that move, when you started drumming on that journey in the Witches Revival, it was just, as you say, you opened a portal, and it was like I was taken on this multi-dimensional journey, and I heard that noise and that singing. At first I thought it was interference through your microphone, and then again, this is the importance of sharing. When other people shared, it's like, yeah, it was like I hear that too. Yeah, me too. Like a whole new kind of movement. We hear this too.
Yeah,
the spiritual movement of I get it. You're not mad. It's not your hearing. We rationalize so much and can dismiss things.
And that girl was so brave, who first, can I just, you know, and you could see she didn't know whether to say, and she said, you know, I was hearing this voice, and then other people were like, yeah, me too. And then that brought someone to say, well, I had this man sitting by me, and then this other woman, you know, who'd lost her son, and then and I brought a message through for her, and that's what happened when we're all, and that was my dream of bringing Awaken into theatres, that people would go, I always thought, God, someone like me won't feel so alone, because you've had a spiritual person put on stage, and what it is to be spiritual, because it's such a broad term, but what it is to like have these supernatural gifts that sometimes feel like a curse, that have many times been why you were killed, so you're scared of them because you're like, oh, will I be okay, will I be okay? So there's always that slight fear of, can I be a bit more honest, can I really speak about it? And then what's happened to me, why I speak about the karmic trappings of it, is that it's such a brutal lineage, because if you were a spiritual warrior and holding the light in any lifetime, you've been targeted for it, you've been harvested for it, you've been bred for it. It goes on. I've seen it all, and I understand it. And then I also want to say me too to that as well, to support people. It's not often spoken about, and it's important that we do. And I've shared that gracious journey with you, because you've been very stepping into being like, yep, I'm gonna speak about it too, you know.
Yeah.
It's scary, right?
Yes. And again, that's the power of community and meeting people, when people step into our lives for this reason, to support each other. Oh yeah, there's been times where, you know, that time I was walking the lands of Ireland, and I had these memories of being hunted, and it was so visceral and so scary and horrible. And I was like, I can't share this. I can't. I'm not sharing this with people, because I'll make them feel horrible too. And I am the light bringer, you know. And you're like, well, what's the cost of not sharing this? The more we share our truth, it brings it up. It's no longer hidden and suppressed. It's here to shine the light on. So yeah, I want to thank you for that encouragement to go, this is right to share your truth. This is all part of your soul's story. Yeah. And I want to add that a huge thank you for being so ambitious, because witnessing you in your flow, in your arena, on the stage, and bringing in and merging all your crafts in that 1 hour, in that 90 minutes, was awe-inspiring to witness and watch. And there's so many times I'm like, wow. There's Cheryl, and then she's the poet and performer in this whole other role. Then she takes a sip of water. Then she's speaking again as Cheryl. Then she's drumming as shamanic Cheryl. It is all these different roles that you brought in. So I feel like we're being called to be ambitious, as tiring as it can be, you know, but also to support our physical self, but to be that ambitious, to bring these messages through.
Sure, I really felt that, and I'd had the joy of going away to work for a week at Earth Movement Lab with Eden's Cave Theatre, and that's why the idea came out, because I went away not realizing that I was actually searching for my dad. And you go deeper, because they were like, why are you here? And I was like, oh, I'm just trying to find my spiritual performer. And because I've been trying to merge those fields for a while, like, what does a spiritual performer look like? Because the spiritual awakening happened to me by accident when I trained as an actress. And I saw the spirit of my nan come into the rehearsal room. And then I was like, oh my God, what do I do with this? And then that journey was on trying to suppress the spiritual part of myself to fit in some ways, until writing my own play pushed me out of the closet. But much as a spiritual writer, and I was like, if I was kind of over COVID losing the love for acting and the industry, and looking at it going, is this really how my soul serves? Is this really, you know? And then I kind of went away a little bit lost, and I realized the deeper reason was because my nan appeared to me in the rehearsal room. I was hoping that my dad would appear there, and he didn't. And I was in the woods, and I sobbed and I grieved, and I kept calling for him, doing my light language, and I didn't feel him anywhere. And it was, you know, and I will say this, never, and I said it to the woman that was grieving her son, I was like, grief weighs you down so you can't hear, but also know that it doesn't come the way that you expect it as a human, going, this is what's got to happen. This is what's got to happen. And then I came back and I was spending a week just working through my story and what I wanted to tell at the Witches Revival. And I thought, okay, be the spiritual performer, because I'd put on a performance piece at the end of Eden's Cave. It was about my journey into acting, trying to find my dad, and he didn't turn up, and it ended with a song where I was just singing, where have you gone to, my dear? Just still searching for him. And then I came back straight into preparing for the Witches Revival, and I thought, okay, I'll just write my story, I'll bring my poems forward, and I'll share, you know, this journey through awakening and losing my dad, and what that meant for the play and the past lives and everything, and shared all that, and then did a shamanic journey from my heart to help everybody connect in. And that's why it was like, then you realize, you know, when this girl goes, I've got someone here, and describe my dad, and I was like, my gosh, you never know the end of the circle, you know, until you keep going. And it wasn't the way I expected it, and it was like, whew, thanks, Dad, of course you're here. And I'm just telling people, you know, grief weighs you down. It's often when you can't feel it. And, you know, I chat with my dad and I feel him around a lot, but I wanted to see him. And so that girl having clear vision and seeing him, I was like, oh, yeah, priceless. It's always bigger and more phenomenal than you think.
Yes, yeah. When we surrender and let go and just tell your story in your unique way.
And speaking of drumming, I'm going to bring those special drums up to Scotland, because you're doing another bit of your sacred work, and I am going to be holding another sacred ceremony for your soul and all the souls that gather there. Tell me more.
Yes, so with the witches, the message from the witches since August 2020 has been their mantra of witches rise up, return to your power. And ultimately where it's
you were singing it through the whole of your talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So they will be singing.
Yeah, you will be singing it. Great.
And yeah, and it's for me personally, it's led me back to the land to remember the earth witch that I am. And it feels really important. People have actually been asking, when are you going to do something in Ireland? Because I'm so connected to the land in Ireland. And for me, it feels like I've got to honor something and the witches as people on the land of Scotland. So I'm inviting people to Lendrick Lodge, which is the sacred lands of the Druids and the Celts, to invite the witch energy back to this land. I've been on a few courses and walked the land where this retreat will be in October. And for me, it feels like the song of the witches and their spirit wants to be remembered and brought back as the sacred people that they are. So, and this is the retreat that I'm offering, Witches Rise Up retreat. It's from the 6th to the 8th of October. And we have such a powerful group are gathering from all around the world. And yeah, we've a few spaces left if people feel called to join us. And again, it's this feeling I get, it's like, Cheryl needs to be here.
You said it to me ages ago, and I was like, I couldn't, you know, my dad was sick.
No.
Yeah, and I was like, and then I think awaken, and then I just, yeah, and then it got to be like, oh, I do know I need to be here. So I just honored that thing. And I won't know that until we complete the, you know, and somebody else, you know, was with me, and I was like, I really need to go to Scotland. I was like, and I really want to honour the land. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have to speak to Eimear. And I work with Bridget. Oh my gosh. You know, so it's literally like spirits calling in the divine people. And that is happening a lot. I mean, everybody that's come and joined Telling Your Soul Story is like, oh, I need exactly this, you know, and I heard you talk about it. I really need that support. And it's like when you're honouring the soul's work, okay, I do need to do this. And, you know, and you never know the impact or the meaning of it, but you just follow it and then it works out and you go, oh yeah. And I loved it when you said you walked the fire walk that you did and what you said at the end.
Yes, so it was a summer solstice fire walk at Lendrick Lodge, and oh, that was such a powerful moment. I'll share more in the retreat, but as I stood, it's interesting because I wasn't afraid of the fire, but what I felt is the fear actually that witches would have felt as the pyre of the fire rose so highly. But as I walked over the burning embers, I just shouted out, we shouted out our intentions to the group, to the circle, and I walked over it and it was like, for the witches! And then everyone there must have been at least 50 people there on the firewalk. Everyone repeats, for the witches! And it just felt like such an empowerment. And it just came from within me, from my roots, from my bones, from the fire. And again, this realization to really be clear that we're helping to befriend the flames of the fire and all of the elementals. And that feels really important to honor and to really spend time with each of the elementals as we commune and walk on the land on this retreat, because all of these elementals were used to kill us and suppress us. And now the water becomes our purification to help us rise up and return to our power.
And of course, I've spoken about all the elementals being used against us. My Witch 5D workshop, which I will put the link in here. It's a free workshop that I literally, Spirit got me out of bed and said, you have to record this. And I was like, oh, I was really tired and going through like problems with my health. And I was like, okay, no, I have to. And I was like, okay, do that. And I find it funny that our stories also interweave on the Witches Rise Up, because when I went to Glastonbury and I was on a retreat with Steve Noble, and he said, does anyone want to put their intention inside the circle? We're all standing on top of the tour in a circle, and people were stepping forward saying what they wanted to call in, and then everyone was like supporting that and answering to it. And then suddenly I felt the energy to go in, and I had no clue what I was going to say. And I just went, and this is for each and every witch that's died on this land. I will get awakened out in your name. And then sort of said it all, and then came back, and then Steve went, well, she's the actress in the group then, isn't she? And it's like, I didn't even mean to go so big. But when you're channeling, it was like, that's fine. You know? And my sister went, I'm not going to follow that.
Not just yet.
But I had no idea it was coming out, but it was like the energy of the ground, and being at Glastonbury as well was a bit like, oh, something had taken over me, and it just felt bigger than me. And I think it is bigger than us and important. And I kind of want to speak into a lot of people that are following witches interestedly, following campaigns, following the awakening, following are maybe wrestling with themselves as a witch, like at a different stage, don't know whether they call themselves a witch, don't like the name witch, are so heavily into doing the witch work and reclaiming what we've lost, all scales of the spectrum. And I want to say that I feel, because of the work that we both do, it's felt so important, and we kept forgetting to talk about it, about traveling this wheel in support and community that you talk about, because I feel like you have to be calling yourself a witch to out satanic abuse. And what disturbs me is a lot of people won't. I went to an event recently and they were like, oh, like that whole satanic panic about that was why they hate us witches. Now, I understand witch hatred and I do not support it at all. I do not, and I know it still happens. I know witch killing still happens. I am totally against that. I'm a witch healer, and by witch I mean wisdom keeper. It's the old wisdom knowledge. that I walk with and I honor, and I only know that because I work with souls, not because I'm, you know, without that soul knowledge, I knew little. So my soul had everything in it for me. So I honor witches, but I also know in the name of witchcraft, there ain't no panic about it. That's ghosting someone, and that's silencing people. And that's not on. And because I speak in the witch form, I feel I have to out all sides of what's been done in the craft, because it disturbs me. And, you know, I believe that we're run under the laws of nature and the natural world, but it's not hard to see that the natural world has been stolen and harvested and damaged just as much as our bodies and our minds and our spirits and our souls, which to me is a magical practice of breaking the laws of free will. And I have to talk about that because it's happened to me all down my soul's lineage. And in this lifetime, I've had to witness it, and it's not on my watch. And interestingly, I noticed that there were some people that are protesting in London because of things to come. Watch this space. I started this course and our circle around now for a reason, because to me it's the start of the year of a third awakening. And I saw that on the protest they've got hashtag not in my name, which just made me go, because I've spoken a lot about the witch stuff, not in my name. Yes. And I was like, oh, this is as powerful as the hashtag me too in spirituality. And I can't wait to see that one being brought forward, because I've said that a lot. So it was lovely you bringing that in, but also, yeah, not in my name.
Wow. Yeah, I felt quite woozy as you were sharing that.
Yes.
Just whoa, all of what you shared there.
And what would you like to bring in? I'm going to go into Eimear's soul stuff now, about what you're tapping into at this time, what's being, and I know that you had loads of pages you said about Ireland, and you have a lot of stuff that's, you know, even that, yeah, coming to our sharing today about the tears that you've cried over this film. And, you know, there's a lot.
There is a lot. And this, you know, us coming together to walk the witches and the karmic wheel, again, we don't know what the end what we know our visions, but we don't know what's going to unfurl in this, and it's always so powerful. And so we've already done one, which was the Lunasa Witches Wheel, and it was all about harvesting, because suddenly for me harvest was always a positive thing. Harvest our gifts. And then through what I've learned and past lives I've been on, harvest is not always a positive thing. So it's like the opposites there. But what was your question? Yeah, so what's been coming through from me?
Yeah, I know that you have a bit of a block around the island thing, and also
I'll do the preamble, you know,
yeah,
to get to it.
The film. Yeah, I was like, now I'm going to push him a little bit. Yeah, you know, even that we've been talking a lot about homeopathy and this silencing of that, and you know, yeah, well, I know that I've been getting really into understanding alchemical, pharmaceutical, you know, the lineage of a magical lineage when it comes to medicine and cults, which has been very interesting to me. Oh, my voice is about to go. Interesting. You stole our medicine. I'll come back to that. Yeah. We were speaking before about me writing that poem about stealing of medicine. It's, yeah, the herbs, the wipeout of the witches, which I've spoken about quite a few times. But I know that you are bringing forward quite an interesting medical and Irish wound. So I'll let you speak into that.
Yeah, so for our next Witches Wheel, it's the time of autumn equinox and coming back into balance, and the beauty of the goddess of Macha, who's a horse goddess. That her story I've always found so tragic. I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but her story is beautiful and tragic. And as I was preparing for this next event, which is the 21st of September, and we'll put links in that people can sign up to this live webinar, and you can also purchase it at any stage because the replay is available. Bit of a sales pitch in there first. And I'm taking a run and jump at sharing this story. And as I was writing it,
you try not to share.
yeah, it's one of these things. I was astounded, but not surprised at what came through me, because Macha resides over the north of Ireland, of Ulster, and she did place a curse on the men of Ulster that they, in their hour of need, will experience the pains, the worst pains of labor and childbirth that they could possibly experience. And that's the curse that Macha has placed, this mythological character that still comes through our lore and is also here still in the land of Ireland, which is divine and also deadly as well at the same time, because these wounds of this split and severance of 6 counties in the north of Ireland. Ireland geographically contains 32 countries, and as part of a peace agreement, 6 counties are part of the UK, which is the country that I live in, and my children are British, and the other 26 belong to the Republic of Ireland, or the Irish Free State. And the work I do is all about bringing balance and peace and harmony to ourselves. It's about returning to our center, our sovereignty, to experience and reconnect with our own rulership over our lives. And I feel that while this curse is still in the land of Ireland, it's a colonial curse, it's colonial mind control, that we can't be free. And I don't like using that word can't. I'm aware of the language that I'm speaking. I'm a linguist as well. These words carry a resonance. But for us to be fully free, we've got to heal the curse that is so strong in the land of Ireland and beyond, and to free ourselves.
The beautiful words that reverse the curse, rage, and what did you call it?
Yeah, so it's reverse, it's rage. My goodness, I need to find what we've called it. The Witches Wheel at autumn equinox. I'll find it now.
It was so interesting because we were both tapping into like sacred rage, and I know it's a lot coming up in the collective at the minute. And then now you were talking about reverse the curse, which is a lot of work that I am doing very much, because it's very much about working with a divine spiritual connection to break back the laws of free will that were broken, and to say, no, I witnessed this, I understand this, and now I'm reclaiming my sovereign self. Because the only way dark magic can play out at all is if you're in ignorance of it. So it's like it's an abuse of free will, and they break the natural laws very, very cleverly. And witnessing it is reversing the curse.
Wow.
So that's why it's so, and there's a lot of there's journey work that I'm going to do into that. But that's why I'm constantly encouraging people to see down their soul's lineage, and it's the same today. It's like, if you can see what's going on, you can say, no, I don't consent to whatever feels like a breakage of your free sovereign rights. And it is this that is going to get us into the 5D. So I know it's tricky, but it's, it doesn't help looking away, because then you can get abused by things you don't even know are abusing you.
Yeah, and we can look away so well. I've been very good at that, or compartmentalize things. And for me, this is helping me look at, sometimes it's hard to see what we're so close to, and to look at my roots and origins in this life with new eyes, to rise up above it and view this, and to swoop down and experience. And it's rage, release, and reverse the curse that we're exploring. And I feel, so these this comes through, and then I go, Cheryl, help, I don't know how to reverse the curse. come with me.
I know. This is what you do. You go, you see, Eva just magically wanders these lands and she opens a can of worms. And this is how we speak. And she'll be like, oh, I'm just going to go to Malta. I'm drawn to these lands. And your soul is actually going to be Knights of Malta now. So, you know, this comes up more in the workshop. But I was like, when you said, oh, yeah, sacred lands, Knights of Malta. Okay, that's interesting. And then we both uncovered a hell of a lot about that paradigm. And I was like, Eva, you just go off and then you're opening up a big agenda and you do that. And it's the same as our last workshop. He was like, oh, I feel really cool to bring in Sinead. And then after that workshop, we both sort of shared like, oh my gosh, the things that were done to her and the element, you know, it goes a lot deeper. And that only started to awaken for me looking at the end of the workshop going, are they checkered floors that she's on? Like, is that Freemasonry signals? And then you sent me the Song of the Fire of Babylon, and then little pieces start to add up. And I love the way you just, it's like your purpose in life is just to go very innocently along and then take the whole roots out of the system.
Along. That's why one of my colleagues when I worked in corporate, he used to call me the singing assassin.
That's so, yeah, that's so it.
Yeah, and it's like, come to these lands. And then as I'm standing, it's like, oh, something's going on here. Something's going on that doesn't feel so good. So it's interesting where we're called to go and to remember and to experience. And yeah, it feels, you know, thanks for the encouragement to speak about it, because it feels liberating and almost has a calming effect when we can speak about these aspects that don't feel as divine and light and aren't. Yeah, and the Knights of Malta and the Freemasons and the Irish flag, you know, the symbology of our sovereign countries. These are really important aspects to look at. You know, the Irish flag is like green, white, and orange. Very often it's represented as green, white, and gold, but it's orange to represent all parts of our country. You know, and I wonder, is the white in the middle, it's peace. And I feel like it's almost keeping the green and the orange apart, or there'll be even worse fighting.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to restore all of this. And it's not a job. It's not a one-man band, a one witch band.
No, yeah, it's huge. And as I said to you, it felt like Sinead had gone, and now carry on the baton. And then I think you channeled loads of stuff about Ireland that felt like it really needed to come up. And I think, you know, you're not born on, or you don't gravitate. You know, I know that London's tough. I know that I need to be here. I know that I'm still excavating the shit show that's here. You know, that I can't seem to move off this land until I've really, you know, worked out the root of the occult and the butchery of healers and the, you know, I Marjorie Jordan was burnt in the middle of the square, and right beside that square is where the first, I think it was a hospital or pharmacy, was started, right by that square. And I was like, what now?
Which
I was so I know, you know, that we bring things into this life and our souls are going, wake up, wake up, wake up. And it, you know, it certainly isn't easy. It wasn't easy for me to go, what, you're going to make me, but this is my dad. This is too close to the bone, going through everything I did with the medical institutions over the past few years. And, you know, we've all been through it with COVID, and, you know, it's been a massive divide and conquer campaign, if not more. But it's, yeah, it's like, well, okay, so I kind of know the soul's assignment now, so I have to speak. And kind of in my dad's name, I kind of do speak about a lot of this, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring a lot of stuff about the history of medicine and also the history of witch healers forward through on our workshop, as well as the theatre side and the occult theatres and Golden Dawn in London, bring that forward. So yeah, I feel like we've both gone, well, we'll just bring forward what most needs to be said and what most needs to be said, and make sure that it's talked about, because I know that I've spent some time going, why won't people bring this stuff forward? You know, why won't people talk about this? Because then it puts it in the shadows, and that's not going to help, because as I've said, witnessing it is the key to, you know, going, okay, I don't consent to that because I can see it, but until you can see it, you don't know what you're consenting to. And I think that's the most awful thing that we've come out of this time, that we need to not be silenced, shut down, or in any way, because open debate and communication and honesty and open-heartedness is the way out of this mess. And I've always thought that, like, you know, I know wars could be solved if people could all sit in the room and go, what's really going on here? You know, it's just, it's madness to keep us all apart and not talking about solutions.
Yeah, it's the divine round table, isn't it?
The divine.
Yeah. And you sent me The Cult of the Medics to watch, which is incredible.
Yeah.
When you're feeling courageous, watch that. Yeah. And that led me then to and you mentioned homeopathy earlier as well, and I had a consultation for my daughter with a homeopathist only yesterday, and I came across on her website was a post about this film called Magic Pills with an S at the end, and I watched it last night and this morning, and it just, again, it made me so angry and then so sad. And that's where you mentioned the tears flowing earlier. That's where I was just crying through it, that there are these medicines, these ancient medicines that we know of that are available. And again, it's like the witch hunts happening again, the discrediting, the, you know, name calling, the suppression, the ridiculing, because there are these amazing cures and magical potions that are available and that, are being maltreated all over again. So I'm going down the route of homeopathy and learning more about that. You've also
well, it's interesting, wasn't it? Because I saw that, I watched that thing and I sent over to you about the interview with, I think it was JCK, and she was interviewing a homeopath, and I didn't realize the history of homeopathy, that it was like that it was in every hospital, and then Rockefeller came along and bought out everything and then made it shut it all down, whilst using homeopaths the whole way through. I was like, this is insane. And once again, it's what we don't know about our history. You know, we need to know that. We need to know who makes the decisions on what's right and wrong. And also the ripple effect of that is that we get alternative medicine, that woo-woo stuff that can't be proven. And yet who's funding the science papers about it being proven? You know, you've got to keep asking these questions, because, you know, this is the witches' heritage. This is the healers' medicine we're talking about. So who funded what, and who killed what, who brought this about? And interestingly, I read last night that King James was a direct genetic lineage linked to ancient Egypt and King Ramesses. And King Ramesses was always in my play going, and my character Sophia that I was playing was going, you can take him down, because I knew the damage he'd done to the ancient Egyptian lineage. And then I just went, this was all channeled. And then I read it when they've got genetic links back from King James, who, if you don't know, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, also being Freemason. So it's very convoluted, but also had the lineage down to ancient Egypt, which is my second play, which I'm talking about being the origin of the witch problem.
Ooh.
You know, some people need facts. I don't. I just trust the channeling, and then it turns out to be true time and time again. Because once your channel's clear, you're picking up stuff, way before it's into the collective, which is why I was like, we have to start the wheel now. We don't know why, but we know it's a big year, so let's begin.
The death of Sinead O'Connor had such a catalytic effect for me, unexpected in that way.
You're innocent as that. I guess to conclude, and to complete the circle, would just be, like if you could reflect on the last journey of the witch year, is there anything, epiphanies or anything that you want to share, or anything that you feel that you've learned that you haven't shared already?
Well, trust is coming up, and it was 12:12 when I just looked there at my clock. 12:12. Trust is coming up for me a lot, to trust what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what's flowing through, that is what's most alive, is what needs to be either shared or acted upon, if that feels right. And Bridget, you mentioned Bridget earlier. Her flame coming back really strongly into my life in February of this year has been such a catalyzer for me, because that invited in the energy of the Magdalens, or the Order of the Magdalens, which I've read to the Magdalenas as these divine beings. And this, for me, this is a even deeper energy and feeling and frequency of love. It comes back to love, really, is the balance point. You shared earlier on, sharing from your heart, drumming from your heart. I get this is where we're leading from our hearts now, and it's placed me back on the leadership spiral again. I say again, more consciously, to speak about that with Bridget, with the Magdalens, with Macha, with all these beautiful deities that are here to support us in their divine essence, with Sinead O'Connor as well, and her beautiful songs, some of them. They
were from the heart, for sure. Heart and trauma, I would say. And I think that it's funny, because we mirror, and we also have our distinct messages to the world, which is why we work so well together, the light and the dark. And I feel like what came through so strongly for me is I'm working with affirmations about, I will speak my truth, I will write my soul's truth, and freedom to do that. But I took freedom out because I don't know how much freedom we have, but I will do it anyway. That felt more aligned with my soul. It was like, I will do it, and I will keep turning up. And I kind of recommitted, because I think my second play is a bit more scary, because it's outing a lot of, transhumanist agendas and soul harvesting. And, it's not a fantasy play. I write from a soul's lineage. But also that recommitment for me came in about, and I feel like when we spoke before, you were pushing me in the witches circle, not pushing, but a spiritual encouragement to teach more. And I wasn't, and that was what was coming through. And you were like, oh yeah, you should do that. And then it kind of launched into Black Rose, and now the Karmic Wheel, and then leads me back round to channel your soul story, which feels so important, because I just feel so passionate about changing the paradigm through storytelling. And stories create the new world for me. I think, people are doing amazing things in so many different ways, but you need to know your field. And I know that we've kind of interweaved with you doing sacred storytelling in your sessions, which is beautiful. When I said to you, my God, you're a sacred storyteller, because you're popping the pieces together. And I am very keen on bringing people's soul stories home so that they remember who they truly are and what's happened to them, so that they can heal it. But most importantly, and I think it comes back to the heart for me, is heart is also passion. Yes, it's love, but when you put sacred rage in the right place, it's passion. It's like, you will not silence me, you will not stop me, because this is passion, pure driven passion. And that is what always keeps me going. And there was a time when I was like too grieved this year, I wanted to give up, and I was like, there's no passion in the heart. But now it's like re-anchored into like, this is passion, this is purpose, and I'm just wanting to activate all the souls I can. So yes, so if your soul needs activation in a big way and you want to write your own story, then Wednesday the 13th we begin, and I will be running that again in the new year because it's important. And then I will do a deep dive, spiritual writers, because Channel Your Soul Stories for your spiritual growth and for writing stories and for creating businesses. It's for your soul. But I will be doing a deep dive into spiritual writers once you've got a draft or you're very deep into the process, and on that journey to really get the message clear and out, and to make it spiritually aligned, because people don't know how to write spiritual stories, because spiritual people are real people, and you know, we don't hear enough about them in stories. Like, what is it like? And we've basically talked about all of that today, which has been really powerful. Like, you know, the fears, the being afraid of speaking out, the throat going, the channeling, the trust, the divine guidance, and the community. And that is what the stories are for, to create a community of being understood. And you know, that Me Too movement is all of that work that we do. You know, you're not alone with this.
Yeah, and the next time we speak on your next series, I'll be holding up my own book, and
your book. Yeah.
And you'll have your trilogy.
Oh my God, when are we next speaking?
In the making, in the creation.
In the making, yeah. Yes, I will have a draft of the next day, and you will have your book. Let's commit to that.
We've said it on camera.
From bookends, books, plays, and sacred stories. Love it.
From one bookend to another.
Well, thank you very much for today. It's been a pleasure, as always. And yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love where these conversations go, and I hope people feel activated and supported by all that we've shared.